Adam Gase still has a job. Not only did the NFL have a tie this week, so did the Alpha Dynasty League. And we have a new number one in the power rankings. All this and more in 20 seconds. Hey, fellow fanatics, welcome to the Fanatically Real broadcast sponsored by Football, Darts, and Fantasy Sports Alliance. How is everybody on this Wednesday evening? We are going to be doing our week 3 wrap up tonight. But before we get there, let's talk about our broadcast sponsor, Football Darts. Football Darts. It is a dart game that combines the skill of traditional darts with the strategies of American football. This innovative dart game is played on a uniquely designed multiple target dartboard. Unlike traditional British darts, American football darts is a game that combines both the skill of darts and the strategies of football. It can be played in sports bars, at tailgate events, as league tournaments, or as a leisure activity in the comfort of your home. If you would like to check out their officially licensed collegiate dartboards, go to footballdarts.com. And also, we would like to mention our partners, Empty Wagon. They say an empty wagon makes a lot of noise. Listen to our partners, Josh, Eric, and Brad, talk fantasy football on their podcast, the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast. They are your one-stop shop for fantasy football information and news. The guys talk rankings and projections with a whole lot of comedy. So since our last broadcast, they put together 2 podcasts themselves. It was the Week 3 preview and the Week 3 recap. They were lucky enough to get Josh on the preview with them, but not on the recap. But all we care about is that you are listening to those guys. So go out, make sure you find the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football Podcast on Anchor at anchor.fm. And then go and subscribe to the show and download their podcast and follow them on all of the social media at Empty Wagon FF. Kevin, how are you tonight?
I am doing well. Glad to be back and on here talking fantasy with you on this lovely Wednesday night.
What's the weather like up in Jersey right now?
Overcast and sprinkles on and off. Supposed to be more showers tomorrow, but good as of right now for me anyway. I
What's
like
the temperature?
So
What's the temperature?
mid 60s, low 70s ish, depending.
That's not bad. Yeah, it's about what it is here too. So, hey, if you're watching this tonight, and I can tell that we've got 8 of you on Facebook with us, 10 of you on Facebook with us, and 3 on YouTube. We would like to thank all of our YouTube viewers for making this possible, because we were able to get all the way up to 106 subscribers to be able to allow you to watch it over on that platform. So thank you very much. And also, you got to see the Average Bros fantasy show for the first time on YouTube last night. If you did not get a chance to watch that on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you go over and check that out, because Kevin's brother Josh got an awesome pie to the face last night. You don't want to miss that. And if you like this show and you would like to subscribe to all of our social media stuff, it is right down there at the bottom, scrolling across the screen right now. Go out on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We got them all now. So make sure you follow all those handles that are down there. All right, let's talk some NFL news. Let's get into that first tonight before we get into our games of the week. And I want to bring it up because it's been the topic of discussion a lot in the land of FSA today, the Pittsburgh-Tennessee game and what that's going to look like. Let me get your thoughts first and see what you think.
I am surprised that it's taken this long before anything popped up in general. As far as COVID goes, between active players and staff with all the travel, being that they're not in a bubble of any type of, any sorts. But with that being said, it is a fairly low number for the amount of players that are in the league. I believe active rosters, as far as players is concerned, is only about 1,600. probably double that for your practice squad guys, and then triple that if you include your staff and venue and everything like that. So, bravo to the NFL for keeping it as low as it is, with only 8 on the Titans. But with that being said, I think that I'm glad to see that with the outbreak happening, that they are taking precaution. They did close all 4 teams' practice facilities, uh, being the Steelers, the Titans, and the I believe it was the Texans. I have to double check that.
I believe it was
Whoever the Titans had played last.
Minnesota.
Minnesota, yeah, there you
Yeah.
go. So they had closed those down. And Minnesota plays who?
That's a good question. Look across the bottom of the screen there. We'll see it in a second. Minnesota's got Houston, which is why
the
Houston
Texans. Yeah,
down now.
yeah. So that's the 4th team. All of their facilities have been shut down, and obviously the Titans game being postponed for more testing. You do see some false positives pop up with this, especially with one of the positives being just a slight fever and running around 260 pounds in full pads. I'm sure any one of those guys could be suspect to running a little warm that day. So I'm glad that they are, doing multiple tests across the day, and looking forward to seeing how they actually handle the game itself once it eventually plays.
Sorry, before we get going, I want to make sure I say hello to MJ. She's out there tonight. Jenna, Sean, Brian Lewis, and Maria all on with us right now. How is everybody tonight? So yeah, right now from a fantasy standpoint, they're talking that the game's already going to be delayed, so they're not going to play at the time slot that was going to happen on Sunday. Game might happen on Monday or Tuesday. Fantasy implications is if they still play the game on Tuesday, do those points still count? I have not seen anything come across MFL's page yet, which is our scoring engine, and it will show there is a message block right above the standings part on all of the FSA leagues. That includes the redraft, the dynasties, the arm and leg league. They will put out a note on that one. Or if we hear about it first, we will send out an email to all 144 teams that are out there across the alliance right now, and let everybody know what's going on with it. However, the theory is we know that the fantasy football week is not final until Tuesday, right? That's when they can do all of the scoring adjustments and stuff like that. And there might be a chance where a tie might become untied because of a slight adjustment of a yard here or something like that, right? So if they're still going to play the game on Tuesday, it's a very good possibility that's still going to count for us for fantasy. In fact, I'll go to the bank on it and say that will count. I think the fear is we get to Sunday and they're still saying Monday. We get to Monday, they say Tuesday. Then we get to Tuesday and they say, okay, we've decided to go ahead and give these 2 teams or maybe even these 4 teams the bye for the week, and we're going to move them to a different week, right? So what the empty wagon guys like to say all the time is temper your expectations of what's going to happen to your players right now. Have a backup plan just in case it happens. Probably put your backup players in the lineups right now until you know for sure that what's going to happen, right? So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, outside of big players, and by big players I mean Derrick Henry and maybe Big Ben if you went late on quarterback. Outside of those 2 guys, I'm saying go with your backups, because those other guys, the James Connors, the Jujus, are probably more suspect to be running back 2, wide receiver 2 within your teams anyway. So it's going to lean more towards the backup realm as is. I would say the only guys that are really going to hurt you are the Derrick Henrys of the world, who is right now leading the league in rushing yards. So outside of that, I think you're pretty good.
So Brian Lewis just posted something, and I'm not sure, Brian, if we're going to be able to post all of this on there. So what I'll do is I'll read. This is off of the MFL help page, And it says, what will happen if NFL postpones a game to Monday or Tuesday or to a later week? The answer is the NFL has announced that the Week 4 game between the Steelers and the Titans on Sunday has been postponed until Monday or Tuesday, or possibly even later. We will have a formal announcement with guidance on how all of this will work as soon as the NFL makes the official decision about when the postponed game will be played. In the meantime, some general guidance is if the game is rescheduled for Monday, and I think he's waiting to copy and paste a little bit more because it only gets so many characters per screen. And Brian, really appreciate you putting this up there for us. If you got a second part to that, we'll put that up there in just a few. So, I'd like to stay on the topic while we're waiting on Brian to be able to put more information up there for us. And I'm not even sure if he knows that it didn't publish at all. Yeah, so I know your thought process is Connor and Juju might not be that big of a deal, probably RB2 or WR2. I had every intention of starting Juju, and my opponent this week happens to be my soldier, Sergeant Ryan, and he works right next door to me. And he has James Conner, and he had every intention of starting Connor this week as well. So I did tell him, at least from my perspective, the good thing is if him and I lose out on both of those players, it's a 1-for-1 in my opinion. I really do believe if you look at probably about the score that both players have put up so far for the year, it's probably a wash. So even if we both decided to start and they both get pulled and if we both take a 0 there, I think the other 9 players that are on our rosters still make up for a pretty good game for us. Brian wants to know, where did it cut off at? It cut off at after the words of if the game is rescheduled for Monday, and then we got the N in the I, and then nothing else came after that. Yeah, Eric says it's a tough spot all around for sure. That's coming from the Empty Wagon guys. And then Bill says, why not leave week 4 open until that week 4 game is played in the future? So you're saying leave those empty spots for those players without a final score until that game is played? That would be interesting, to have a game in the future count for points for a game in the past. That would be interesting. Might be the first time I've ever heard a suggestion like that. Yeah, it says plus.
That's definitely interesting.
So
yeah, I just think that it's tough to do.
Guys, for us on our side, there is no show more on the comments whenever we're doing this through StreamYard. So where it's cut off is what we get. So to continue on what Brian said is, if the game is rescheduled for Monday night, then nothing will change with regard to the NFL players in the game. It would be similar to week 1 when there were 2 Monday night games. Okay. If the game were rescheduled for Tuesday night, then it would still be counted as a game in week 4 of the season, but there may need to be adjustments to your league depending on your league waiver calendar. However, please do not try to make any changes to your league settings now. We will provide more guidance as needed if the game ends up being played on Tuesday. If the game is rescheduled for a future week, then the game will be counted in that future player lineup for week 4, just as they would if the Steelers and Titans had a bye week. And he said, end of help. And thank you very much for copying and pasting that for us, Brian. We appreciate it. So kind of like what we already said, we don't know what that's going to look like. Hopefully they make the announcement sooner than later. We don't want to be waiting on Monday Night Football to find out that those guys aren't going to be playing on Tuesday. So hopefully we will know. But yeah, this happened one other time. Does anybody remember? I want to say it was back at 9/11 where they ended up canceling all of week 2's games across the entire board. I think it was. And it's hard to believe that it's been that long since I think this was the last time it happened. Maybe even happened during one of the hurricanes. I don't remember, where they pushed the team over and then they took a bye early and then had a very long season ahead of them after a short bye very early in the season. So yeah, and that's kind of what I figured what Brian had put out there for us, that they would allow, MFL would allow or tell us if there was any changes. So we'll find out across the top of the page. I'll make sure that I send that out in an email, so we get that out to the masses. And then as far as the waiver wire goes, at least for us, uh, maybe we push the waiver wire this week to Thursday instead. Gives everybody that same opportunity to be able to play around with their players going into, so everything just shifts one day to the right, and then by week 5 we're back to normal. So again, we'll play the hurry up and wait game, but at least we have some guidance from MFL now, and thanks to Brian Lewis for putting that up there for us. I do have one more piece of NFL news that is not related to anything COVID or really any current players. I promised when Brandon poked his head in during the Average Bros Fantasy Show last night that I would mention this because it is a former NFL player and it happens to do with Joe Montana. So apparently a 39-year-old woman was charged Tuesday, which was yesterday, and what authorities say was an attempt of kidnapping of the 9-month-old granddaughter of Hall of Fame quarterback Joe Montana from a Southern California home. And I don't want to mess up this lady's name, and I don't want to speculate what really happened. We'll just say this individual is from Los Angeles, and she pleaded not guilty in an LA County court to felony counts of attempted kidnapping of a child under 14 and burglary. The 64-year-old Montana told sheriff's deputies that the girl was asleep Saturday in a playpen in the house in Malibu when a woman he did not know entered and picked up the child. Montana and his wife Jennifer confronted her, tried to de-escalate the situation, and asked her to give back the baby. After a brief struggle, Jennifer Montana pried the girl away, and the lady that is accused of this fled from the home, and then she was later arrested nearby. So news that I told Brandon I promised I would put out there, and there it is. Interesting, right?
Yeah, that's a strange one.
Yeah. Damien has a very good theory about how we should handle this possible COVID thing between Pittsburgh and Tennessee. He actually sent this to me in a text earlier. I'm going to share it with everybody and see what you all think. He says, why not have players select an alternate player to take the place of Juju or Connor or Henry if that game gets canceled, and just replace the player with the alternate? I believe as the commissioner, under the commissioner powers there, I do have the ability to swap players even after the game is over. I do believe that I have that ability. We'll put it up for discussion and see what anybody thinks. Put it out in an email probably tomorrow to give those that have Pittsburgh and Tennessee players to see how they feel about that. I'm hoping it doesn't have to go that far, but that is a pretty good idea. I think Damien kind of related it to our tie-breaking player that we have right now in the arm and leg league as possibly an alternate to put in that spot. Just kind of designate and have them ready just in case. Not that they would go in there if they score more points, but only if it turns out to not go that way. And Brian hitting us with more knowledge tonight. He says the last time an NFL game was postponed was in 2017 when Hurricane Irma forced a game between the Miami Dolphins and Tampa Bay Buccaneers to reschedule their game for their bye week, which happened to fall in the same week. Very fortunate for them. Fortunately for the Patriots and Seahawks, they could come to a similar compromise. Okay, that's good to know. Chris comes back with, can I swap out Kittle last week because he was injured? No, Chris, we're not going to go back and play last week all over again. But yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yeah.
Did you end up winning the game with Kittle not in, with Kittle still in there? That's the bigger question.
But as far as the swapping players with a bench player, I personally think that's a good last resort as long as that backup player is known to both teams. Say, hey, I am designating, these two, this player as my backup if things happen. That way it's not, oh, by the way, I just happened to pick the highest scoring player.
Highest scoring guy is on there. Yeah, I like that idea. Yeah, so we in the military we have a thing called a PACE plan, primary, alternate, contingent, and emergency. We'll call whatever the NFL and the MFL are going to do as our primary plan, and we'll use this idea that Damien just brought to us as an alternate plan and see what that looks like. But I'll still present it out to everybody and see how they feel. There might be some. I mean, we could be talking Steelers defense, Titans defense, kickers from both teams, especially after Gazowski went nuts with Tennessee last week and scored like 50 points or something like that. On a fantasy football side, you know, it could affect a lot more players than we're thinking, more than just Ben, Juju, and Connor, you know. Let's see who else is out there. Sean says, hopefully the NFL and or teams can come to a decision prior to Sunday. Yeah, I mean, that would be the primary for us, right? That's what we would like to know. Chris says, players who don't play, whether it's due to COVID or injury. They don't play. It's unfortunate. And then otherwise, that player gets to play on another week with no issues either. It's all part of the process. You know, it's a good way to look at it as well. So if these guys were injured this week, they would not play. Brian Lewis might say it's in the bylaws. That's not funny. Not funny at all. But we'll consider it. Like I said, primary is waiting for NFL and MFL to tell us what's going on with that. So, hey, we beat that enough up tonight. You know what we really want to get into? We want to get into these games of the week. All right. Games of the week. In the New England region, Chef Boyar Louis put up the most points in that region and the second most in the Alliance this week after their defeat of Superfan with a final score of 212 to 157. In the Appalachian region, the Mad Scientists did put up the most points in the Alliance with 219, which was a 106-point margin of victory win over the Mermen. Final score there is 219 to 113. And we didn't get quite the game of the week for all of the Alliance that I thought we were going to get. I kind of put this out last week that we had two Hall of Fame teams in the Great Lakes region playing against each other, and that was the Killers and the Creek Dogs. They are also longtime friends of each other. The Killers put up the third highest score in the Alliance with a 207 to 108 win over their longtime rival. In the South Atlantic region, the Kalunga clan came from behind and is one of the 5 teams to break the 200-point mark this week. They are the 5th highest scoring team in all of the Alliance. They knocked off with that late comeback the Unicorn Legends. Final score there, 204 to 174. The Gulf Coast region was the only region to not have a team score above 200 points. However, the Vols were the highest scoring team and earned their first win by handing the 99 Problems their first loss with a final score of 183 to 141. And then the 4th highest scoring team in all of the Alliance and one of the other 5 teams that cracked the 200-point mark was our team from down under, the Koalas, and they defeated the Calloused Cowboys with a final score of 204 to 91. So let's take a pause right there and see what else we've missed. COVID is not a part of anybody's process. That was a -1 from my defense. What was that? Was a -1 from your defense? What's he talking about? Oh, that was, he earned that with a -1, still scoring 219 points. Bill the Third says, what if we rescheduled games results in a team having 2 games in a week or a game that doesn't fall on a normal fantasy week? What if the rescheduled game results in a team having 2 games in a week or a game that doesn't fall in a normal fantasy week? Well, that shouldn't happen. They will definitely make these guys play during bye weeks. Yeah.
Yeah, I believe that the plan would just to move like teams' buys around.
Yeah, to make that happen. It, like Brian said up there earlier, it was fortunate enough that those 2 teams ended up having a bye week, so they just ended up still playing each other on when their normal bye week would have been. Chris says, and in your sense, injuries aren't a part of the process, so if someone gets hurt, can I replace them too? No, as I said, part of the process, don't pick players. That is pretty simple. He does have a very good point there. I mean, the COVID, I mean, MFL even has the ability, they have players listed as COVID. We had already said in the offseason that if the COVID affected any of our actual players, almost like an IR, we would spring up those two spots for them to have for a COVID reserve. However, it has not affected any of our players yet, so we have not
Well,
used it.
so
So,
I think I just want to clarify here because I think people are getting it confused as far as having the backup plan in place as far as players are concerned. We don't mean players that are out and not playing due to COVID. We mean active players that are going to miss the game altogether if it is pushed and canceled if you have previously started them. So it's not like you know ahead of time up until game time that the player is going to be out and hurt. You know, you're putting them in the lineup as if they are going to play. I think that's a little bit different. So if a player is hurt, you have a minimum an hour before that game goes off to replace them with an active player. In the case of the Steelers and Tennessee game, you may have no time because if it plays Tuesday, or if the plan is to play Tuesday or even Monday, and you have no players left to replace them with, and then it's canceled anyway, then that's a gap that's you can't fill no matter what. So that means just not playing those players altogether. It's not like they have COVID to not play them way ahead of time.
yeah, Chris is making complete. I mean, all of this makes sense from both sides, however we look at it. I mean, it would be the same thing as I actually saw this on Twitter the other day. Um, the who ended up getting pulled last second. The
Julio did.
but not that one. That one came in enough time because I actually have Julio in a league and was able to pull him off. But Chargers quarterback ended up taking a needle
Oh,
to the lung.
Tyrod Taylor. Yeah.
Yeah, so I had Tyrod Taylor in his lineup, and because it was such a last second change, and I don't know what his league rules are, he was unable to get that change made. And he wrote the commissioner and thought he should be allowed to use his backup quarterback as his starter instead. And
Well,
he actually put a poll out there and said, "What does the football universe, fantasy football universe, think about that?" And the overwhelming majority of us, including myself, said injuries are part of the game. It happens. No, you don't get to replace that guy. So something also to think about when we're talking about that. Uh, Bill says, um, Bill says a questionable player is different from a whole game getting moved due to an unrelated players popping hot. And then Damien says it's a unique situation that deserves a unique solution and outside the box thinking. Also very, very true. We've kind of got a little bit of a pace plan put together. Let's just keep our fingers crossed that the 5 or 8, or I think might be up to even 10 players that have tested positive now, because I think 2 more came up hot. I don't know if they were players or if they were staff members. Let's just hope that that is
I
all
mean,
we've got. I have not seen any big names that come out yet from that would be affected. But I mean, they'll squash the entire game, the entire team if this gets to be too crazy. We won't even have to worry about whether they have it or not.
yeah, I mean, I have a simple solution. Anybody that is in the Appalachian region, please trade Bill all of your Tennessee and Pittsburgh players. That will solve everyone's issue. He'll be more than happy to make a trade to you for a replacement player and then make it his problem.
All right, since we are talking about Bill and when it's the Appalachian region, and we're back on games of the week, let's talk about these dynasty leagues that we have over here. And you know what? I didn't realize, Kevin, we sat through that whole part and that just sat there on the screen while we were talking. Nobody got to see our amazing faces. So make sure that we get our faces back up there next time. Uh, Alpha League, we had our first tie of the year. We're going to spend a little bit of time sitting here talking about this. And our tie came between the Northern Kentucky River Monsters and the Salt Lake Stallions, and they played to a 121.28 tie. So let's talk about ties for a little bit here. So I got asked by at least one of these two teams, what do we do when there's a tie? So that we leave it as a tie, and here's why. It was about 8 years ago that FSA decided that we were going to a decimal scoring system. And in that first year, we had a tie. And the two teams that Tide came to me and said, "What are we going to do about this tie?" And I said, "Never in a million years, with 10 starters or 9 starters on a roster, with decimal scoring all the way down to the hundredth of a decimal point, that I think that we would ever have a tie." So we never put anything in the rules to break a tie in this case. And when we continued on with the rule book year after year, just said ties. So about 4 years after tie, and in that year, it really, really had 4 more years after that. So now we're at a total of years, and we're now on our third breaker rules. Reason being is because it happens so rare, and it becomes a very big part. We're just going to leave it as a tie. So that will be our first tie of the year. More than likely, probably the first tie we have in about 4 more years, since that seems to be the pattern that's going on right now, about every 4 years. I want to go back over to people who are still discussing what's going to happen with this Tennessee and Pittsburgh game. Chris says, when a game gets stopped for lightning, do we have the same contingencies in place? Says Frozen, you're rebooting like hell,
Yeah,
Chris says. I understand you. Did I go
yeah, you
out for a
broke
little
up
bit?
a little bit there. Yeah.
Okay.
The gist of it
So
is that as far as the ties are concerned, it happens as much as a leap year does, and
pretty much,
usually doesn't come into effect. Um, but it's an interesting play because it does make does have playoff implementations for better or worse depending on where you fall.
yeah. So the bottom line is, since everybody wants me to repeat, I won't. Tie is a tie. How about that? We'll just go along with that. Tie is a tie. Let's get over to this Bravo League. So in the Bravo, the Brooklyn Lions remain undefeated with the narrowest of margins of win in the 12-team league, with the defeat of the Cincinnati Reds. Final score there, 141 to 135. The game of the week in Charlie now has these two teams with a 1-2 record. This was the closest margin of victory in this region, with the New Jersey Generals defeating the Florida Tuskers 166 to 162. That's your team, isn't it, Kev?
Yes, it is.
Okay, that's what I thought. And in the Delta League, the Orlando Apollos are the only remaining undefeated team in the Delta League after their win over the Milwaukee Mustangs with a final score of 133 to 121. And let's get to this arm and leg league. In the AFC, we had a 1-point margin of victory between Cody and Randy. Randy remains undefeated in the AFC with a 27 to 26 win. And then after such a great week in the redraft league, Brett was only able to manage 1 point in his loss to John in the NFC. Final score there, 20 to 1. All right, so now we're going to talk about power rankings. These power rankings are brought to you this week by Southern Sirens Sugar Scrub, one of our bowl sponsors. Thank you, MJ. We appreciate you. So did a little bit of reworking of the power rankings. As you can see, the number 1 team is now at the top in the center all by themselves, and the other 24 teams are in the 2 columns there. Kev, how do you feel about falling from that number 1 spot to the number 6 spot?
Well, I'm not feeling as good as I was last week, that is sure. But still in the top 10. And as I mentioned on the Average Bros yesterday, it is really all about your region as far as the standing goes. The power rankings are nice, but as long as I end up finishing above Damien at the end of the year, that's all that matters to me. He can have his 1 spot for now, or 1 spot above me, him sitting at 5 and myself at 6. But the Empire will rise again. No need to worry about that.
Let me put him back up here on the screen for everybody to see, because we pulled him down pretty fast. So see, Koalas, the Nihilist, Hookers, Mad Scientist, Evil Empire, Rum Runners, Naughty Dogs, the Ohio River Monsters, 1863 Ramblers, Wildcats, Fantasy Football Team, Monarchs for the top 13. Rolling Over, Greenbacks 14, Chris Betts, Assassins, Land Sharks, Maniacs, Ship Huggers, Unicorn Legends. Even after the loss for the Unicorn Legends, she still jumped up from 40 to 20. Pretty big jump this week. Southern Sirens drops a little bit. Turd Ferguson, Lunatics, Average Joes, and Vols. And I wish Eric was here. There's Eric. I was about to say, is Eric on? We got to make sure that we get his comment up there on the screen. I don't think I should be one, but I appreciate it. There's a few squads out there that I think are a little bit better than mine. The thing about this is, Eric, is it's all math. There's nothing that we can do about it. There's no humans figuring this out. Well, there's a human doing the calculations, but it is all done by math. So if it says you are number one, you are number one. So congratulations on taking over that top spot. So what I want to do is I'm going to bring up another screen here in just a second and kind of give you all a little bit of a layout of how these things are being calculated every single week. And I don't know how well you all can see that, but I'm going to explain to you how this is done every single week. So this is the Excel document that I use to do your all's power rankings with. There's 3 tabs across the bottom here on the left-hand side: the master, wins, and all play record. So your all play record has all of the all plays for all of the teams from each one of the weeks in here in alphabetical order by the teams there on the left-hand side. How do I get those? So every week I go out here on our website and I go under reports, standings, power rankings. When I come over here, power rankings, I have to do power rankings as the all play record, and then for the league, and then I click on now. This gives me this screen right here. I copy and paste this entire thing that you see in here, and I delete the data that I don't need, which is essentially everything in between the franchise name and the all play percentage. Everything else in between there goes away. Once it goes away, I copy that in here, and then I sort by alphabetical. That way, this screen always stays alphabetical. Then I have this screen here in the wins that's built that is always alphabetical as well. And basically all of this is ones and zeros. If you earned a win that week, like we just finished in week 3, you get a 1. If you did not win, yours stays a 0. This very first column right here in the wins is a total of these across there. And then I have a second calculation down here across the bottom to make sure that I always catch all 36 of the wins that should be there because of the 72 teams that we have in the league. Then we go over to the master, and here's where the magic happens, and this is where it takes a little bit of work on my part. So the all play records are then connected to the all play records that is on the all play tab. I originally sort these alphabetically, and then I have them connect to the all play record that's over here. That way this number is here. Then the quality wins that you all see here on this first column after the team names, what I do is for every team that a team beats, I connect it with the wins column on the wins tab right here. So let's use the Gadget Guys for instance. Gadget Guys has 4 quality wins. Gadget Guy is 3-0 right now. So the Gadget Guy has beat 3 teams. As you see it, they have beat whoever is in the cells B71, whoever's in B66, and who is ever in B39. So if I go 71, 66, and 39, 71 is West Coast Avengers, who has 1 quality win. That was a win for the Gadget Guys. B66, which is the Underdogs, that was 1 quality win for him. And then B39, which was the Lunatics, which has 2 quality wins. It totals all of those up with this formula that I have right there, and it gives us the 4 quality wins. Then to be able to get the power ranking over here on the side, it takes quality wins, multiplies it by the all play record, and it pumps out this power ranking. If there happens to be a 0 in the quality win column, it already knows that that 0 should be a 1, and it just counts the all play record in that case, or multiplies the all play record by 1. So that is how the power rankings are calculated each week. I hope I didn't confuse anybody. I hope that kind of explains how I do it each week, so you know how this goes. Now, I know Ross Norris out there, who is the guy that runs the NCFF league, who is the guy that I got the idea from. We've been trying to play phone tag with each other to figure out if there is a better way for me to automate this system than what's already there. But honestly, this only takes me 40 to 45 minutes, then a couple extra minutes to put it up on the power rankings part of the page, which if you have not seen what that looks like, for those who don't know, if you're over here on the home tab, let me get you all back up on the screen here. If you're here on the home tab and you click on this power rankings button right here, so you don't have to go into the menus like I did earlier to pull that up, here's the power rankings, and it has it in there for each one of the weeks. So you can go all the way back to the beginning of the season if you would like. You've seen that we've kind of expanded what that chart looks like this week, so you all can see the quality wins, the all play, and not just the power ranking. Plus, we did the adds, the moves up and down as far as the power rankings go this week as well. And then actually probably the part that takes a little bit longer than all of that after I get all of that done is making sure that your rankings on when you see your teams on the homepage have it on there. Now, a lot of you are probably asking, hey, Kamish, why does my team have to have the power ranking out on the end instead of the front of the name? As you see right here on the Chris Betts has 15 and the Assassins has 16. The reason that we had to put it at the end this year was because when I bring those in and I sort alphabetically, because the first thing that Microsoft likes to do is sort by numbers and then by letters, it would sort those with numbers in the front to the top, and it wouldn't stay in the order like it needs each week. But with the power ranking number at the back of it, I can always sort it alphabetically, and it always go into the spot that it needs to. Damien says the fantasy football team 1 and 2, but it's tied for second best all play record, and then the third or fourth highest scoring team. So you'll see it. We kind of discussed it in the group me chat already this week about how interesting this is and how it's playing out, and where certain teams are up at the top that we think probably shouldn't be. One of those teams that we're also really kind of confused about, not really confused, but if you really look at his all play record, you'd understand. And that is the team that's sitting in 26th right now, which is the Mongoose. He has 4 quality wins, but look how far down he is, and that's because his all-play record is .216. So the wins that he's getting, he's beating guys that are also scoring low just like him, and those teams have gone on to play better weeks after, which has been able to give him the quality win. So it will balance itself out. We're getting ready to go into week 4 this week. Once we get through week 4 and week 5, you're really going to see this take shape a lot more, especially when we start getting teams that we don't have as many undefeated teams or teams that do not have a win yet. Then you'll see it play out a little bit more.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see when it comes to the power rankings and records in general. Once we start to look ahead towards the end of the season, when we talk about award season, is where are our rookies sitting in comparison to each other versus the veterans second year and on within the league, and how they are faring this year against each other.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up too. I'll talk about the award part in just a second, but since we're talking about the playoffs, I wanted to let everybody know, and in case you weren't already tracking, we'll put it out in an email. The power rankings and where you are going to determine the 6 teams when we go to the World Championship after we have our regional champions. This power ranking is going to determine the number 1 and number 2 first round buys. We're going to use this power ranking to do that. And you'll see as we get closer with the total points that you're scoring and your wins and losses, it will really affect, help, even out, be reflective of your power ranking. So it will make just as much sense for a team that the top 2 teams that come out of the regional championship to also get that number 1 and number 2 seed first round bye in the World Championship playoffs. And then, Kevin, you're talking about how does the rookies compare against veterans in FSA. Don't forget, at the end of the year, we do hand out awards, and a couple of the awards that we give out is top scoring team of the year. That team actually gets money at the end of the year. And then we also give out general manager of the year and rookie general manager of the year. And those teams will earn ribbons, and you'll see that on your profile after you earn those. You'll see it on your profile on FSA, and we're also going to try to make it part of your standings icon that's out there right now that you see on some of the other teams that were regional champs from last year, previous world champs, Hall of Fame members, things like that that are out there. Who's going to see you in the last game of the year? You mean Chris? You mean the last game of the regular season in Week 11 when you're eliminated from playoff contention, but might have a chance to play in one of our bowl games at the end? I'm not sure who that will be, but we can look it up for you. All right, so hey, something different. What you got, Kev?
I was just gonna say it's not gonna be Damien because he's in the same situation. He might be playing for a bowl game, but not the world championship. As I don't see him passing me.
Let the smack talk continue. So hey, something we want. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for letting us know we're number one. Hey, so something we're going to do new this week is we're going to talk about some of the previews for next week. Now, I didn't want to do a preview game for every one of the regions, but I wanted to look across the entire alliance and including our dynasty leagues and bring up some week 4 games of the week to keep your eyeballs on. And here's why. So we've got one from the New England region, South Atlantic region, and then one from the Alpha Dynasty League and one from the Delta Dynasty League. So in the New England region, the number 15 and number 16 teams play against each other. You just saw them in the power rankings. That is the Chris Betts versus the Assassins. According to MFL right now, Chris Betts are favored by 19 points. In the South Atlantic region, the number 20 and 21 teams play against each other. That's the Unicorn Legends and the Southern Sirens. Right now, Unicorn Legends are favored by 20. And in the Alpha League, this game is really worth mentioning because this is just a really cool coincidence that this is happening. I'm pretty sure after talking to Brian Lewis about this online last night, this was completely by accident because I found a way for MFL to go ahead and schedule all of these leagues for us this year, right? I kind of gave it a little bit of a script of what I wanted, and it spit out all of these games. This weekend in the Alpha Dynasty League, the Columbus Panhandles are playing the Dayton Triangles. Why is that a big deal? So on October 3rd, 1920, 100 years ago, the very first game that is in the history books of the NFL was between the Columbus Panhandles and the Dayton Triangles, played at Triangle Park. Final score there, the Dayton Triangles won 14-0. And it's so crazy that we have that same game going on this weekend on this spot in the calendar because this is the weekend of 3 October for us. So 100 years later on a fantasy level, we get to see this game happen again. Right now, the Dayton Triangles are favored by 9 points. And then in the Delta League, the Apollos are the only team that is left undefeated. They're putting their undefeated record on the line, and they are going to play against you, Kevin, New York, New Jersey Knights, and you are currently favored by 3 points.
Yes, I am. So far, the crazy thing is, if you look at, as we just mentioned, 5 different leagues that I'm in. My first year playing in a dynasty setting, and then Delta being my second team after drafting in Charlie, and it was probably the team that I was least confident in, but now has had the most success in. So I'm very much looking forward to winning this week and dethroning the unbeatens.
So Chris says that's mental. 100 years on and on the same game goes down. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I thought maybe subconsciously somewhere that I did that on purpose, but I can't even take claim to that because Brian reminded me last night that we did just let MFL pump it out. But it's crazy that it went. It's crazy, first off, with all of the dynasty teams that you could choose from in all of the teams that are out there, that these two guys pick these two names, end up in the same region with each other, and the schedule gets pumped out 100 years later, right? Just crazy that that happens, but very, very cool coincidence. All right, so hey, we talked enough about what's happening with Pittsburgh and Tennessee with a possible Tuesday night game. So let's talk about Thursday night game. I do remember Brad Buckner from the Empty Wagon Fantasy Football podcast saying that all of the primetime games this week, Thursday night, Sunday night, Monday night football game, are all snoozers. And he's not wrong when you look across this lineup. So Thursday night, we have Denver at the New York Jets, which is why I'm wearing this get up tonight. Last checked at probably about 1600 today, it was an even game. There was no point spread. It opened with Denver being a 1 point favorite, I believe, but now it is even with an over under of 39 points. Kevin, how you like this game? Who are you picking?
I am going to have to go Denver with this. I have no confidence on any team in New York outside of Buffalo. Um, Adam Gase is probably my favorite coach in the league, but for all of the wrong reasons. Playing in the same division as the Patriots. Um, I think that Denver has pieces. They've had the injury bug, both at running back and quarterback. So I think that they've got some talent to get it done. I I think that it's going to be pretty poor performance regardless, but um, low, close scoring game goes to Denver.
So I think Josh handed his predictions off to you as well, right? So who did Josh pick for this game?
Yep, Josh is right there with me. Josh takes Denver as well, and um, same goes it for him. Reasons why, just nothing at all abysmal. Jets, no one there of any type of mention should be in the NFL whatsoever. If there was a backup, if there was a D League, Jets, if there was a D League in the NFL, the Jets would be there. So
That hurts a lot, man. Well, I'm right there with you guys. I mean, I've got the Denver hat on my head on purpose. I put the Jets jersey on tonight because this is, Curtis Martin, my favorite Jet player of all time. But I'm right there with you guys. I don't expect the New York Jets to win a single game this year. When Chef Louis and I were talking about it at the beginning of the year because he's a big Jets fan as well, he predicted the Jets would go 14-2. He's mental. And I said the best
Jesus.
will, yeah, I said the best we'll do is 3-13, and I think I was giving them a lot of credit with that 3-13. So, um, Jonathan Broughton says, "Let's put the Jets in the Canadian Football League." Not a bad idea, actually.
I'm pretty sure they
Um,
folded.
with the CFL, they didn't. They
Yeah.
didn't fold. I think they just quit because of COVID for the season. I don't think the entire league folded yet. I think it was as a squash because of COVID, but I could be wrong. Might need to do some research and find that out. Um, let's talk Sunday night football. Philadelphia at San Francisco.
Yeah, this one is going to be a game that I keep a particular eye on, partly being in the region, but definitely the quarterback talks. You've got a team in the 49ers that are playing with a backup. So, and Nick Mullins, I believe, again this week. Um, but then on the opposite side, you have backup talks for all the wrong reasons in the Eagles, as far as underperforming and poor performances from Wentz. If that continues, they're talking Hurts again. Um, but regardless of how he performs or who ends up being quarterback there, I think nothing really saves their season at 0-3, or sorry, 0-2-1 on the year. I think they do move to 0-3-1, and the 49ers take this one.
And I think you said before the show, Josh feels the same way. You guys are all triplet on all your picks.
Yeah, me and Josh are up and down even on these.
Yeah, and we won't belabor this too much longer. I am the same with you guys. I'm picking San Francisco on this. San Francisco favored by 7 right now with an over under of 45.5. And then we've got Monday Night Football, Atlanta at Green Bay. Probably going to see a lot of passing yards, I would think, in this game because they've both been doing it already for the first 3 games of the season. Green Bay favored by 7.5. Over under is 57.5. Huge over under there. You guys going Green Bay?
You know what?
You going to change your mind on this one just so you can try to get away from us?
No, I can't. As much as it pains me to take Damien's team and give him any type of satisfaction of agreeing with him, I mean I believe it was a 1 in 99 chance 2 weeks in a row that the Falcons lose those games. Um, and they blew both of them. And then I believe it comes out to a 990,000 to 1 odds of losing two 15-point leads in a row. There's no way that they get out of Green Bay and win this game, especially if they can't finish out games, which is Aaron Rodgers' strong suit. So um, I don't think there's a chance that they can, win there.
I think Jonathan's not wrong here when he says Atlanta might go up by 30 and then still lose. We've seen it happen. Um, Kev, what else you got for tonight? What else would you like to add to the show before we wrap it up here?
I think that's about it for me. Outside of throwing down the gauntlet, the merman, making sure that you remember to set your lineup there, bud, because you're going to need every point you need in trying to stop the Empire as it comes back to the top of the rankings. Damien, I wish you no luck as always, and I hope you like your number 5 spot for now, as you shall be dropping shortly.
So my opponent happens to be my soldier, Sergeant Ryan. I believe he's out there watching us tonight on the YouTube side of the house. Sergeant Ryan, good luck this week. I also hope that you lose this week because I'm going to need any of those quality wins that you might collect for the rest of the year. But I do hope we have a good game. And I'm hoping that the Pittsburgh and the Tennessee game does not cause us to have issues in that head-to-head matchup. Hey, so somebody did make a point just a little bit ago that we do have a Tuesday night game, which could almost be a prime time game. You want to make some predictions right now on the fly between Pittsburgh and Tennessee?
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Tennessee in this game, regardless of when they play. I believe they're probably the most suspect 3-0 teams. The Steelers' combined record of teams that they've played is 0-9. The Titans is 1-8 of teams that they've played. I think that the offense of the Titans is rolling and getting better week in week out, even through injuries that they've had at the wide receiver position. I don't think that Pittsburgh's got it anything under wraps with an aging Big Ben. I think that the run game is too strong for them. I say the Titans get it done.
So I might be off my gourd here. Am I wrong in thinking that the Steelers have the number one rushing defense right now? Am I wrong in that? But I think I'm right.
That I don't know.
Anybody out
Um,
there in the Alliance verse be able to back us up and let us know if that is in fact true or not? And I believe that it is. With that, um, yeah, Chris has a very good point there.
yeah,
You have the Steelers more suspect than the Bears. Bears are crazy
I think
3-0
they.
team right now. Yeah.
I I do think that the Steelers are more suspect, especially for the teams that they've played. They have not played anyone in division yet, I believe. They might have beat the Browns, but I can't remember off the top of my head now. But yeah, I'm not big on the Steelers in general. So um, regardless, I
Well, I
think
will say
the
this.
Titans get it done.
I was able to pick it up real quick. As of right now, Pittsburgh's defense is number one against the rush and number 12 against the pass. I like them to be able to stop Henry, especially after his first 3 weeks performance have been like inhuman. And they are giving him the ball a lot. It's somebody's got to take a break at some point. This might be the game where he actually gets held up. I'm going to, and plus my mother-in-law would disown me if I said that the Titans were going to beat the Steelers. So I am going to go with the Steelers this week. That will be the one change that you and I can have as a possible tiebreaker for the week since we picked all the other games correctly. So let's go ahead and put me down for the Steelers and hope that this game happens. Chris says pie bet. I'll take the Steelers and you can have the Bears.
As far as what? Best record overall at the end of the season or winning this week? I'll
Yeah,
have
where
to
are we?
sit there.
Where are we total right now across our
So whoever
predictions?
has the better record in wins as far as end of the year goes, um,
Oh,
I'll
he's
have
talking
to
about
get back to
the
you.
Bears. Oh, okay,
I
I
would have to
got you.
get back to you on that one. I will have to look at the rest of their season, the rest of their schedules. Sorry for the rest of the year. I'm not
Steelers.
100% sure who. each team plays.
Steelers by a mile. Steelers by a mile. That if we're comparing them and the Bears together, when I look at the two games that they still have to play inside the division, Bengals and Browns, yeah, Ravens are going to be tough to get by, but I bet you they split that because they always have tough matchups there. And then when you look at Chicago, they've got Green Bay twice, Minnesota twice, Detroit twice. They're going to get murdered by them all the way across the board. The only one that they might get is they haven't played any interdivision games yet, right? So they have not already played Detroit.
That like I said, I don't know who
Okay.
they've played to date off the top of my head outside of what I see scrolling across the bottom with the Colts this week. So I would have to take a look at that.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's hold on to that, Chris. Don't let us forget that. We'll come back next week, or even if you want, we'll talk it during happy hour this week. So before we come back next week on 7 October, we're going to have happy hour on 4 October. We're going to have the Average Bros Fantasy Show on 6 October. Now, don't forget, Average Bros is 30 minutes before our time slot day before. They're at 8 o'clock. We'll still be back here at 8:30 next week. And the happy hour on Zoom or maybe right here in the studio on StreamYard. It's a TBD this week. Matt Furby happened to come into the studio with us last week and said he would love to be able to participate in these more. We just have to push the timeline to the left a little bit. So that might happen. So keep your emails and your group me hot, and we will let you know. We might even have 2 happy hours on Sunday. It just gives me more reason to have more drinks in the belly. So we'll let you know how that's going to turn out. And thank you for all of you that might be watching us on YouTube right now. Make sure you go out and follow our social media stuff at the bottom. Kevin, you're right on, man. That was good. Thank you. Appreciate that. If you still would like to get a team jersey for your fantasy team, let us know. Hometown Sports is on standby right now to pump those things out if you would like them. And then thank you to all of our sponsors. QB54, which is our Arm and Leg League sponsor. Football Darts, a broadcast sponsor. Nature Coast Tailgating, the World Championship sponsor. Finger Lakes Mercantile, Cranky Veteran Cano Company, Southern Sour and Sugar Scrub, Deep South Creations, all bowl sponsors. And, of course, the Recast, the official music of FSA. Thank you all. Hope you enjoyed the show tonight. Kev, any parting thoughts or comments? I know you already asked you once, but now we're really at the end.
Nope, that's it for me. And good luck to everybody. Make sure you set your lineups. Don't forget. And I'll see you on Tuesday.
All right. Good night, Alliance. We'll see you at happy hour.